were rounded up and forced into cattle cars that took us to the distance. After 3 long days in the darkness without food or water, the doors of the cattle cars opened and we were in Auschwitz. We were stripped of our belongings, clothes and humiliated. Growing up, my father insisted I learn languages, which saved later my life in camps. My mother protected me and my sister.
Truth is rarely spoken in a crowd because there are some things we do not know and other things we dare not say. Have you ever met a survivor? A survivor of cancer, a survivor of a natural disaster, a survivor of a tragic accident, a survivor of war, a survivor of the Holocaust. It creates a scarring memory that they will never forget. This elderly woman today was just a 14-year-old girl, just a year younger than the age at which Anne Frank was when her family was finally found in a hidden annex behind a bookcase in Amsterdam when Germany invaded her country, and the same year that her brother died. Today she volunteers at the National Holocaust Museum in Washington, but as a young girl of high school age, when others are learning about algebra and attending school dances, she and her family were interned in Auschwitz, the Nazi death camp, where Anne Frank and her sister Margot died of typhus just weeks before liberation forces arrived to save them. Here she is telling her story to a gathering mostly over 60 years of age and predominantly of the Jewish faith. And the questions explored on that evening were relevant today, questions of how others might remain silent in complicity with true evil. And on the 13th birthday, upon the gift from her father of a diary, Anne Frank wrote, "I hope I will be able to confide everything to you, as I have never been able to confide in anyone, and I hope you will be a great source of comfort and support." In the 1930s, when Adolf Hitler came to power, almost 90% of Americans possessed or had access to a radio. It was the television of the 1970s and 1980s and the internet superhighway of today with our individual mobile electronic devices. And while today we enjoy our Netflix movies and cable television dramas with a healthy sample of news from the world on our favorite news provider network, in the 1930s, almost 2/3 of Americans went to the movies for entertainment and perspective, but also for newsreels to learn more about the world in which they were placed. And the special exhibit at the National Holocaust Museum makes very clear that myopic perspective, focusing upon our own local concerns in America in the 1930s, found many more concerned with the immigration, racism, and anti-Semitism in our own backyard than on the other side of the world, as it was presented to us. And like today, both persons in Germany and in the United States went to the same places for their personal escape, their entertainment, and their information. But a little high school girl named Annalise Marie sat within a secret space, removed from a world that did not want her, and wrote, "When I write, I can shake off all my cares." Yet even contained in a secret place, writing secret thoughts she dared not share with anyone else, this year researchers found at least 2 hidden pages covered by pasted brown paper where she wrote those secret thoughts she even hid from herself. Yet even she confessed that it was not until after she and her family were rescued by American soldiers, after what was intended to be a death march, that she had no idea exactly how fortunate that she and her family had been, because contemporaneously as a child, she could not comprehend that over 6 million of her own people had been exterminated, while others too had remained silent and unaware. 1 year before her death, Anne Frank wrote in the pages of her little red checkered diary, It's utterly impossible for me to build my life on a foundation of chaos, suffering, and death. I see the world being slowly transformed into a wilderness. I hear the approaching thunder that one day will destroy us too. I feel the suffering of millions, and yet when I look at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better, that this cruelty too shall end, that peace and tranquility will return once more. Dedicating a memorial tree to that little girl who died in a concentration camp, former President Bill Clinton observed, "Peace is not a spectator sport. The enemies of peace don't need your approval. All they need is your apathy," paraphrasing the words of so many others before him about the horrors of silence. But perhaps more than propaganda machines, self-reinforcing silos of ignorance and even apathy amongst ourselves, is that fear that even kept famous Jewish Americans during the Holocaust from speaking out, and that left secret thoughts of a high school girl hidden under pasted pieces of brown paper that her father could not even find when he rediscovered her book after a war and after she had died. It was a little red checkered book that was given to her to write about her deepest, most thoughts, but it became her studio to dream of becoming one day a writer, and in the last years of her life, it transformed into a place for reflection upon the life of a girl forced to live in a very dark place, in a very dark world. Perhaps at one point in time, those places where we retreat for safety and escape, or for reflection or entertainment, can only be that one thing during those significant times. And we must be ever vigilant when we go to those places that we know our chief purpose for being. Non incautus futuri is the motto of Washington and Lee University, not unmindful of the future. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress. Next year, in Jerusalem, in liberty, with honor and excellence, the South shall rise again. Honest.